Hello everybody and welcome back to another big week for DC Comics. This week we're starting the Night Terrors summer event with Night Terrors First Blood issue 1 by Joshua Williamson and Howard Porter. This issue, which isn't actually technically the first issue of the actual event, that comes next week. This is just a prequel that aims to set up everything for the event, and for the most part it actually does. Here we're introduced to Dr. Destiny, an old villain of the Justice League who makes his return and is after the Dreamstone. Now this is where the book takes an interesting turn, as Destiny is seemingly murdered by an outside force when he refuses to hand over something called the Nightmare Stone, setting off the murder mystery plotline that the Trinity of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman must solve alongside Deadman. The way Williamson goes about laying out the story is quite interesting, since every new piece of information, like the League finding that Destiny has been killed in the hall, only to find that he's actually still alive in Arkham, is really fun, and keeps the mystery moving so you never really know what is going on and what's going to happen next. I do like how much the book is steeped in continuity as well. I'm a very big continuity fiend. I love my continuity and the timeline, and Williamson constantly references things that are happening in the various heroes' ongoings, specifically the stuff he's writing in Superman with Supercorp, but we also get mentions of Chip Zdarsky's Batman and the stuff that's going on with Failsafe, as well as Wonder Woman, who has been dealing with Zatanna recently. This of course is to help set up the tie-ins, which there are quite a few of. There's something like 20 odd tie-ins. It's going to be covering the next couple of months at DC up until September, I believe, so the next 2 months. Every week there's something like 6 books that come out, which is just a silly amount of books. Absolutely silly amount. I can't remember the last time DC did a summer event that was filled with this many books. I think we're looking at something like Future's End or maybe even Convergence, back all the way in the New 52. The worst thing is that most of these tie-ins won't end up mattering in the grand scheme of things. I get wanting to have the event touch all or most of your characters within the DCU, but that's just way too many for the average reader to commit to, both in time and financially, and it's the one thing that was constantly on my mind while reading this issue. Comic book summer events should be big, yes, but the story is what should be big. The story that you're telling should feel big and grand, not the amount of books you have on the shelf with the branding of the event on it. It's just absolutely ridiculous, and I'd absolutely love to see the sales figures on some of these books when the event is over and which ones sold more, because I guarantee you the Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, those ones are going to be the ones that sell really well. I don't think anyone's rushing out to pick up the Black Adam Night Terrors tie-in. So anyway, back to the story, and here we find out that Dr. Destiny isn't actually the main threat of this book, and the true villain and his plans are revealed, and we are introduced to the villain Insomnia, who makes his presence known by putting the entire world to sleep and invading the heroes' minds in pursuit of the Nightmare Stone. Insomnia is a new villain, something I both welcome. I enjoy when writers get to create new characters, but I'm also weary about it, since more often than not, they have this one big story that they're introduced into and they're pushed really hard in that one story, and then they just disappear forever, only to be brought back maybe for like an issue somewhere down the line by another writer who seemingly remembers they exist. So far, I do like his story and the threat he poses to the heroes. It's a different kind of threat. He's not just interested in world domination or anything, and especially since it looks like it will allow the writers and artists of these different tie-ins and these books to get really weird with the monsters and how Insomnia threatens the world. But again, we'll see what becomes of this character and if they end up being a compelling one. Williamson isn't just building out the new horror-centric threat either this issue, as we touch in with Amanda Waller, who is targeting any and all costumed heroes, vigilantes, and everything in between. Adding her in as an unknown factor to the story will no doubt complicate things for the heroes involved, and hopefully we get a little bit more about what she's up to, since up until now, Williamson has been pretty vague on the whole thing, merely hinting at her trying to prevent something terrible from happening over in the Green Arrow book, and her working with the Council of Light from Young Justice, which is very interesting, but I do wish we got a little bit more, and I think this series will provide that throughout the entire run. 1. Howard Porter does some of his best work this issue, I think, and really I like how subtly he changed his style up. He's drawn a lot of these heroes and villains before through various series, but here he adds a great kind of uncomfortable horror lean to the designs of them. They all look very much like how you would view these characters in a dream, where you've kind of got the right shape of the character and kind of design, but there's just something a little off with it, and I thoroughly enjoy that. And this is what I was talking about. I like that this is a threat where writers and artists can be challenged with how they present horror and how they present the monsters and stuff the heroes will be fighting against, and this is exactly what I'm talking about, where we get some really neat looking designs that look right but don't also look right. There's just something a little bit off with them, and there's a great grimy and gritty look to them. I also like the overall color theme of the series, with purples and blacks being really predominant, which wonderfully contrasts a lot of the heroes' colorful costumes and just the general look of the DCU under Joshua Williamson. Despite the looming terror that is the wave of tie-ins upon us, Williamson and Porter's opening to Night Terrors was pretty good. It sets up a really interesting mystery for the Trinity and Deadman to solve, while also plucking at some of the already established stories Williamson has been setting up since Dark Crisis. I'm going to give this issue an 8 out of 10. If you are interested in Night Terrors and want to know what it's going to be about and how the story progresses, be sure to stay tuned here to my channel, and I'll be doing my best to stay up to date on the event over the coming weeks. And until then, why not check out my reviews for Adventures of Superman issue 5 and Green Arrow issue 3.